We are live Saturday instead of Sunday. Delray Beach Golf Club, Salt and Pepper Sports Talk Show in the heat of March Madness and another beautiful day. It's going to get up, I think, to 87 at 3 p.m. today. It's sunny. We need rain. But yesterday, some of these late seeds made it rain on the NCAA March Madness tournament. Good morning, everyone. We are coming off of my colleague's birthday, so for those that haven't wished Dale, aka Pepper, a happy birthday, I'm doing it for them. So happy birthday!
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a great day yesterday, and I'm fully recovered.
So that's it.
That's it. I can't. There's nothing to tell.
I saw some pictures of you in a limo or transport van. It seems like there's more to what you did than you're leading on to. So
no, it's just some friends, of mine that I knew from when I played basketball in England. They rented a leisure van or travel van, whatever you want to call it, to do a little pub crawl. So we went to about 4 or 5 Irish pubs, had a couple of drinks at each stop, had something to eat, and we called it a day.
So you made a comment earlier. You didn't realize how many Irish pubs and bars and restaurants are in South Florida, right?
Oh, well, just in the Boca area. Geez, I mean, we went to six places, and within the 2-mile radius. So there's a lot of Irish people down here. They celebrate St. Patrick's Day to the fullest.
So our Salt and Pepper Sports Talk Show is brought to you by Jachim Companies, the preeminent builder in the country, actually. Stadiums, athletic venues, hotels, hospitals, schools, etc. Jachim Companies are out of West Palm Beach, but they build it. I think they just got a deal to renovate the San Francisco 49ers Stadium. I think Don was out there. Also, Let's Go Golfwear. Old Brash will put their website on to get a 20% off if you use Salt and Pepper in their code. We got styles, right? Last week, new styles.
Yes, sir.
And Hilden water to the Queen and the royal family. These are what, leaders here?
Yeah. And actually, the person that's responsible for the Hilden Water bringing it to the United States, Dave Hanna, he's actually the person that took me out yesterday for my birthday. I've known Dave since 1982 when I first played basketball in England, and we've been close friends ever since. And when we moved to Florida, he only lives about 10 miles from us, so I get to see him quite often.
Well, somebody's calling me. Frank, your brother. Right?
Yeah.
I'll take the call.
No, he'll call it back, or I'll call him back.
I'm excited today because my teammate and arguably the greatest player, one of the greatest players at Potsdam, Derrick Rowland, will be joining us, and I think it's going to be a pretty cool conversation going through our 4 years together and what ultimately led to Potsdam's first national championship. But let's before he kicks on, let's talk about it. Last night, I was doing some continuing education in real estate, but I had my eye on the FDU game, and we fostered a relationship with Tobin Anderson, who was supposed to be on last week, but we understand as his week picked up and Selection Sunday happened, he was pulled a lot of different ways, but we did engage with him, and he responded to a congratulatory email I sent him last night after that amazing win over the number 1 seed Purdue. He's a genuine guy. He didn't forget about us. So depending on when their season ends or how far they go, Tobin will be on. And we were talking earlier. It's like people that are not well known. They get involved with Salt and Pepper.
Yeah.
And Layla Fernandez, right?
Layla Fernandez went to the finals of was it the British Open?
The U.S. Tennis Open.
U.S. Tennis Open, yes.
We interviewed her 2 Februarys ago, and nobody knew who she was. And September that year, she ended up playing in the finals. Also, the Westminster Academy women's basketball team, right?
Yeah.
So we interviewed one of their freshman star players last year, Abby Price. And then we got the coach on, and then we streamed a live game, and they went on winning the state championship. And so we got Tobin now. So any coaches or players or whatever, you need to get on the Salt and Pepper Show. Good things happen to you.
A little bit of luck. Hey, St. Patrick's Day, middle name Patrick, a little bit of Irish luck. Come on our show.
So what? Let's go ahead, man. Tell me what you thought about yesterday. I thought it was pretty cool. First couple rounds.
Well, it was tough for me yesterday because I was in a alcoholic state, watching bits and pieces here and there. But I tell you, it's going to be a wide open field. I talked to Coach Fine last week before it started, and he feels that anybody can win these games. A few teams got players that are injured, questionable about playing at 100% this weekend. If you had a bracket, it's probably no good now. With the teams that lost, Virginia lost early, Purdue lost early. And it's a situation where it's very competitive. Some of these teams that we were talking earlier, these mid majors, they've got players that have been there for 4 years, that have been playing together for 4 years, so they've got a better chance of having good chemistry when they do play.
Yeah, I think the landscape today with the NIL, like anybody, right? You don't have to go to a major school, right? I think football is a little bit different, but yeah, I agree with you. I think if you look at Tobin brought 3 of his D2 players with him at FDU, so they're fifth year players together. It's kind of an amazing story. I don't want to get too far into it, but Furman, a team that's been together a while, as well as Princeton. None of those guys are leaving early, right?
And they don't have some of these Ivy League schools don't have grad programs, so you can't go there for a 5th year, which hurts them in some ways, but it helps them where these kids are staying all 4 years at the same institution, and they're playing well.
Yeah, I watching the FDU game yesterday. It actually didn't surprise me. I mean, Tobin looked in the camera and made that call. He probably regretted it that evening, but he was so pumped up after winning the playing game. But he saw what I saw, or anybody that watched the finals of the Big Ten with Purdue. Purdue was up, I think, 15-17 with 3-4 minutes on Indiana.
Right.
Indiana went full court pressure. They couldn't handle it. And he's watching that saying, let's do it the whole game.
Right. Well, those are situations, that's, we talk about scouting reports all the time, and that's a prime example of his players believing and executing, what they had told them in the scouting reports, and it worked 100%. I think the same was for Princeton. They hung in there all the way to the end, and down the stretch, they were able to avail.
Yeah, I don't know, like I get Virginia won this, a few years back, but Virginia, Purdue, they seem to be fairly consistent of getting high seeds and getting outed by a way lower seed. I don't know. What do you do what do you do about their coach? Purdue's
well, he's gotten it that far. It's just a point where he's got to be able to get his players over the hump, and he hasn't done that in the last couple of years. I'm not saying they need a coaching change, but you've got to do something to really motivate your players and get them to understand that every game is important, no matter who you're playing, and you can't take anybody lightly. And I think that's what some of these teams have done. take these mid majors lightly, and it comes back to bite them in the ass.
Hey, we're down here in South Florida, and two of the teams are moving on to the second round. University of Miami plays. They beat Drake in a ugly game. They're they're going to be playing Indiana. I think that's going to be a tough matchup because their center, Noah Shard, who's a really good player. I've seen him play a bunch of times. He's a really good player. He's got a sprained ankle, and I just don't like the matchup with him injured. And then right in our backyard, our neighbor FAU.
FAU, yeah, they're playing well. I watched a couple of their games this year, and we were able, as a team with Cardinal Gibbons, go to a couple of their practices, and they've got a very, very athletic team, and that's another team that they'll get in your shorts, full court, the whole game, and he runs guys in and out on his bench, so he probably goes about 9-10 deep, which a lot of teams can't do that.
Yeah, which we talked earlier. I think I don't like the matchup with FDU. We were just saying like they're as athletic as FDU, but I think they're more skilled and they're bigger. That's going to be a tough matchup for Tobin.
And saying that, FDU has the smallest lineup in the 300 schools in the nation. So size really doesn't matter. They're proving that they can play with anybody. As you said, their weak side defensive help on Eddie yesterday proved that these kids they can play and they know their fundamentals.
So there's actually some good second round matchups: Houston, Auburn, Miami, IU, Pitt, Xavier. Pitt's looking good.
Pitt's playing very well.
Yeah, Penn State, Texas. It's going to be an interesting. I like this. I like Creighton Baylor too. That's going to be a really good matchup. So I think there's more, good basketball to come and surprises.
Mm-hmm.
But we see where Derrick Rowland's going to be joining us here, and we're going to bring Derrick on. What's up, Big D?
Hey, gentlemen, what's happening, man?
Good morning. Hey, good afternoon, I should say, not morning. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing well.
It's good to see some. It's good to see some old familiar faces, man. I ain't seen these faces in a minute. Good to see you guys.
Hey, did the sun finally break through in Albany, where it broke through so much that it's in the building?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, the sun is always bright in Albany. It depends on how you feel. I look at it as being bright all the time.
So hey, I know you just got out of practice and you're going to be on the road tomorrow, and that's why we kind of moved this show up today. I actually thought Pepper Dale here was going to be at the tournament, but thanks for taking time out. We're watching 10 countries in all 50 states, but I thought the Bodacious Bears documentary came out, and we had chatted multiple times after that, and just in conversation, we felt Francesco, is that his name? Francesco?
Yes, Francesco.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think he was born when we were there, right? But we thought he did a great job, right? But and kind of talking through that, we just thought a lot of the story of what Potsdam Bears turned into at that time and beyond was kind of left out. So, the next 30, 40 minutes, I wanted you to share your thoughts on it and share with the audience because, Tim Dempsey, one of the producers, the main guy behind it, it was about recognizing Jerry and it was, and that's what it did. I mean, his phenomenal career and what he meant to a lot of the players and people. But Tim said, this will always be in a vote. Well, we want to, there's a saying, right? People are entitled to their own opinion, but not their own facts. So, we want to put our own facts in the vote, so to speak, right? So, with that, we got calls coming in here.
Spoon calling.
Leroy Witherspoon's calling in here, but we'll bring him on later. But D, when we talked about what was your, let's start with this. What was your what was your feelings of the Bodacious Bears? You were up there. I unfortunately couldn't get up there.
Mhm.
How did you
Mhm.
look at that whole thing?
Well, I looked at it as positive because anytime you do something like that, it has to be a positive thing simply because we're being recognized. And, it kind of took me back down memory lane a little bit. I mean, it was a great event seeing all my former teammates and seeing Coach Welsh and the coaches and Steve K-Mac and the whole crew. It was just a good experience for me. So I enjoyed it. It covered a lot of stuff. Throughout the documentary, it covered a lot of ground, a lot of stuff, and that's how I looked at it. I just took it as a positive and hoped that it would continue to be better.
Well, you had mentioned to me though you wish they would have spent a little bit more time on some things early in our career. And I don't want to get into like how you and I got there because I think it was covered in the, how you arrived at Potsdam and how I got there. I think it was covered in the documentary, but I made a point indirectly in the documentary that I really didn't know a lot about Potsdam. And did you know about the school or where the school was?
No, I was there on a favor, sort of. My high school coach and Coach Walsh were good friends. And one of my former high school players, Mitch Kupchak, was playing in the Olympics. And I think it was in Canada. And my high school coach didn't have a place to stay because of all the hotels we're taking. So him and Coach Jerry hooked up at some kind of way, and he stayed at Coach's house. So that following year, he called Coach Ross and said, I'm going to return you for that favor. You let me stay at your house. And the favor was me coming to Potsdam. So that's how I got there. But I wasn't familiar with the program at all until I got there.
Were you aware of Potsdam?
No, I was never aware of Potsdam. I didn't go that far up north until you went to school there. That's when I went. That's when I went up to Potsdam. I heard about Potsdam.
And as I mentioned, the colleges where we brought up, Hamilton and Utica. Hamilton was always ranked high, and Murph had that good thing going, and Spartano. I mean, that was where I was cutting my teeth going to college games, right? The only time I can remember Potsdam was there was a player, Joe Topa, who actually my dad coached. He was a protege of my dad in grammar school. And I don't know if I was like 10 years old or whatever, but I went to see, they played Utica College, but Utica College didn't have a gym at the time. They used to play Utica Free Academy. Yeah. I remember going to watch Joe play for this team, Potsdam, that I knew nothing about. Having said that, if you weren't aware of Potsdam, you weren't aware of Mike Dean or Jerry Walsh, right, Dean?
No, I wasn't familiar with them at the time. No. Nope.
Okay, I'm just kind of laying the groundwork, man. Here.
Wait a minute. Now, you guys, I don't know how long ago Mike Dean was in. He was what? About 6 years. He was 71.
No, he played 71, 72, 72, 73, 73, 74.
Okay, and you guys went there in 77.
77, 81.
All right, so you're a few years behind them, and you guys won the national championship in '81. And then the next championship wasn't won until 5 years later in '86.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So there's a difference between the team that was there before you guys, Mike Dean, and those guys who they claim set the groundwork for Potsdam basketball, to where you guys came in and basically took you 3 years to win the championship. Because you're in I think the finals your sophomore year, junior year you lost in the quarterfinals, and your senior year you won that. And then, Potsdam had good teams after that, but it never got back to that championship status until '86. And now it doesn't seem like they're back there competitive at all in their division or their conference. And I don't know if that's because of Jerry's gone, or other players aren't recruiting players to go to Potsdam, or people just it's like anywhere kids don't want to go where it's cold and snowy.
Right. I think one of the things is that, I thought we've had many players in my time that could have played at a higher division.
Mm-hmm.
And these days, that just don't happen. Most guys that can go to a higher division usually go. We had a lot of guys on our team that could have played in Division One. So I think the recruiting has changed. It's just a different time today.
That's a great point, D, because that refutes, one of the arguments, and you know this too. I mean, if you look at, when Jerry started coaching, I think it was the year before Dean got there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Mike Dean got there in 71, 72. Of course, Ted Bentz, Ted Bentz, you're a few rebounds behind him, rebound all time. I'm a few assists behind Mike, all time, right? But 71, 72, they were 17-4, Mike Dean's first year, but they didn't make any NCAA tournament. But the argument has always been it was only 2 divisions back then, right?
Right.
Which I think is that's an opinion and it's subjective and where I'm going with this is the next 2 years they did make the NCAA tournament, but they lost in the first round, and they lost. The senior they lost to Morgan State and with what's his name,
Marvin Webster.
Yeah, so they argued, well, they played with Marvin Webster and it was small college or whatever. Well, my point is, didn't Jerry have access to the same people if it was only 2 divisions, right? Like it wasn't like if there was only 2 divisions, you could recruit the same players that played on Siena or Lemoyne at that time, right? You could recruit to Potsdam, right? So that's kind of an irrelevant point.
Well, you're going back to the same situation, though. I mean, he could have recruited those guys or tried to recruit those guys, and nobody wanted to go to the North Country. Lemoyne is in Syracuse. It's a bigger city. There's more to do socially for kids and stuff, and it's the demographics is very important sometimes in recruiting, especially back when we were coming out of high school.
And I think also that it was a perfect storm. First of all, to have me and you there with Mo being my best friend and Leroy being from Utica with you, it couldn't have got any better than that, because Mo came through me and Leroy came through you, and it was just a perfect storm on the way that happened, and that's why I think that's successful.
You're right. You're right, but I'm just trying to lay the groundwork as to who created this whole thing. All right, and if you watch the documentary, like everybody jumping on the bandwagon that they created this whole thing, and that wasn't the case before we got there, and I'm talking about that right now, right? So I love Mike Dean. He was a great player. He got drafted, but he won 73% of his games. All right, and keep that in mind. And lost in the first round of both NCAA regionals. And then in between, I think the 2 years before we became there, they played in the ECAC championship. I remember when this thing was coming out. Remember Ron Ezzy?
Yeah.
Ron Ezzy went on social media and basically was saying it was his team that won the ECAC championship that got the ball rolling because they did this spread offense. And I'm like, all right, man, this has got to stop. Like everybody's just trying to jump on this. Let's speak to the facts and not someone's opinion. So then we get there. So we get there, right? And we're in a room, a suite, right? Freshmen with eight recruits at Lehman Hall, right? You remember that?
Sure do.
Talk about that time, the first semester.
Well, one of the biggest things I remember, that's when Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in the World Series. I remember being in Lehman when that happened.
That's September. That's right.
Yeah, I remember he hit the 3 home runs and the whole building shook. But yeah, we've had, from the Scott Cuppernalls to all the guys that came, in that.
Mark Cuppernall, Rick Lyons.
Scotty, right, Rick Lyons, Mark Cuppernall,
Scotty Franco,
right,
John Mason.
Right, John Mason, Pat Melbourne. As a matter of fact, I just saw Pat this week, last month. His son tried out for the league that I'm playing in.
Okay.
But yeah, that was when I got there, everything was new to me. The whole Potsdam, Potsdam College was brand. I never heard of it until my high school coach mentioned that there was a place I could go that he thought I'd be a good fit for. So I just remember just the beginning times, and there were players there that helped me as far as like Fran Dimian and those guys in the post that helped. I was a post player that helped me with the system and just, was just kind of, mentoring me a little bit when I first got there. So I have a lot of great memories about the start and the whole time at Potsdam. I still think about those great times and great games and great people that have come across my life since then. So,
So I'm looking at the year right now, right? I got
mhm,
all the stats in front of me, and
mhm.
um, I think when I went as a freshman, you came up a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my roommates.
It's the fighter, right? I remember kicking the soccer ball
Robert
against.
Novak.
Yeah, Robert Novak.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk, and Dale's presence, just a friendship, and then his visibility up in Potsdam, and then us together. There's a story behind that, which I feel really played a role in the success of Potsdam. But so you look at our freshman year, you and I after now. Um, they had a point guard named Ray Lipscomb. Great, he was really good. You remember Ray?
Of course, yep.
Yeah, very great point guard. He started the first 10 games. And then I think it was kind of right up to Christmas break. And he didn't come back. I guess he had some family issues he had to take care of. He was an older person. I think he went into the Army, came back. He was a great player. But I didn't start until the 11th game.
Hmm.
And I started, from that point on, I never missed a game. I started those consecutive games, which I wish they put a statistic like that other than just playing in games, but
Right.
that's neither here nor there. And then you developed so quickly because the JV they had Coach K, the original Coach K, um, had a successful JV program, and it was the real deal. I mean, you played JV, then you played varsity, right?
Right. I played JV most of the season, then moved up to varsity toward the end. Yep.
So you played. So I'm looking. You played 17 games that year, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so really after the break, I believe, if I'm going by this right, um, in January you started to play varsity,
Right.
and that year we won They had the conference. They didn't have the SUNYAC tournament until our junior year,
Hmm.
right? So that freshman year, we actually won the our conference, how it was structured as freshmen,
Right.
and you had a lot to do with that being brought up. Now, there were some good players, but let's call it like you see it. I mean, we didn't have any superstars on the time at
Right.
that time on the team. So we ended up winning our SUNYAC league or conference, whatever, and qualified for the NCAA championship, the regionals in Stony
Right.
Brook.
Right.
And we actually lost to Stony Brook that year, 66-62, I believe, or
Right.
66-60 at Stony Brook, and as freshmen,
Right.
granted. And they ended up going to the Final Four in Division
Right.
III that year,
Hmm.
losing to North Park by I think 4 points, and North Park ended up winning the whole thing. That was the first of three in a row or whatever North Park had. But I look back at that freshman year. A lot of people don't know that. Like we made the NCAA regionals 4 straight years.
Right.
And as freshmen, as you develop at the end of that year, I mean, we carry that team.
Right.
And let's call it. See, I was shocked. I led the team in scoring that year with just under 11 points. I had no idea I did that back then.
Hmm.
As a freshman, and I had gotten ECAC Rookie of the Year and SUNYAC Rookie of the Year. Although people say there wasn't a SUNYAC Rookie of the Year at the time, I got a plaque in my garage. So I mean, you tell me. But we did that as a freshman,
Right.
and I think it's important that people know about what occurred our freshman year.
Right.
Your amazing development, and then it just continued. So we come back our sophomore year, and I'm pretty excited, right?
Right.
Um, I'm just pulling this up, and basically, now you're a fixture, right? We got
Right.
Jack Bissetta, the defense, Fran, Terry Hunter, really good players, Pat Donnelly, Scott Franco. Talk a little bit about the sophomore season.
Well, the sophomore season was a what I remember about the sophomore season is how hard I worked when I went home after my freshman year. You know, it was just a great atmosphere up there. We had the Coach Walsh was a top coach in any division as far as I'm concerned. And we just had a lot to work for, you know. I mean, you and I were roommates, and you know, when we first got there, you were ready for the varsity right away. You were ready when you got there. It took me a little while to adjust and improve my game, to prepare myself, but after that freshman year, I really wanted to be on the varsity and make a difference. So I put the work in, and then when we got back that year, I saw you had improved a great deal as well. And then everybody else just kind of fit in. You know, Fran Demian was a very high IQ player, very smart, tough guy, knew the system inside out. Jack Passetta was another hard-nosed player. And as the two young guys, we just kind of fit right into some of the stuff that they had going there at Potsdam. You know, I knew that we never got, and in my recent knowledge, we had never gotten past a certain round up until that time. And that's the year we went all the way to the national championship game and lost. So it was a heck of an experience, a heck of a year, and a lot of things just fell in place. You know, we just kept getting better. I think Shaq was at Syracuse at the time, so every time I seen him, man, he motivated me just because of who he was and his personality, and he always gave me confidence. You know, every time he came.
Games during the summer at camp up there, you know.
Yeah, I know, and
we had some great games.
We had a lot of fun up there,
Yeah,
Shaq.
we did. Yes,
you know, but you being who you were and being at SU was a very motivating factor to me, just to have a chance to play with you and be your friend. You know, so a lot of things just fell in place, and we just kept growing and growing and growing as individuals and as a unit. So that sophomore year, I think, set the stage for Potsdam basketball, put us on the national map. And we never looked back from there in Potsdam.
I'm just going to go back to the second semester of freshman year real quick. Like, people don't understand, when we roomed together, yeah, I remember getting up at midnight or going to bed at midnight, and you're doing curls and lifting weights, and you know, it was pushing each other. You know, not, you know, I mean, we'd go to the gym when nobody was there. I kind of my relationship with Dale in high school, I just kind of carried it over, you know, with you.
Right.
Just doing the stuff on the side that a lot of people didn't see. You know, that started the dynamic duo.
Right.
You know, getting the keys, or no one else in the gym, and going there practicing on things.
Right.
I mean, there was a lot of blood, sweat.
It was a lot of blood, sweat. You know, and you, like I said, man, you know, I was motivated by you because you were up on varsity and we were roommates and we were buddies, best friends. So I just had to get to that level, and your work ethic was at the top of the heap. You know what I mean? I mean, with the things that you did and things that I did, man, it just kind of carried over. I think we had a great influence on each other, and that's how we grew to be what we were at Potsdam.
So we come back and we, you know, we're like you said, we're kind of peaking at the right time. Still, the SUNYAC, you know, conference championship tournament wasn't around, but we again ended up winning our, you know, our division. I guess that's the best word to say. And we qualified again for the second year for the NCAA regionals back at Stony Brook. Now, Stony Brook, you know, had a lot of that team back that went to the Final Four. And I think they were ranked third in the country or fourth in the country at that time. And we beat them. We beat them in the first round there, I think it was.
Right.
That got us in for the first time into the Elite Eight. So, you know, that was a huge thing.
That was big. That was huge. That's what started the national scene for Potsdam, I think.
And that was, you know, people don't understand. You know, we had 4 NCAA regionals. We won 3 of them, right? Oh no, I'm sorry, we won 2 of them. We lost their senior year at Albany State. We'll talk about that. But we won 2 of them, but we went to 3 Elite Eights, which, you know, was a pretty big accomplishment.
Right.
And so then we go to Augustana in North Park. Talk about that game, or actually to talk about that whole experience.
Well, I can remember some of it, man. That was a long time ago, man. You know, that was a really long time ago. But I know that North Park, I know they had 6'8", 6'11", 6'9" across the front. They had very big athletic guards. You know, I think 3 of those guys were drafted into the NBA off that North Park roster.
4 of them.
4 of them.
Yeah.
And So I remember that very well, but I think, our offense was almost flawless in how we ran it, everybody played their role to perfection, and we were aggressive defensively, and we were very, very efficient. And that's how we were beating some of these teams that may have been a little bigger than we were as far as inside. I was 6'5" at the time, and I was the center. So we had a lot of things going against us, but as far as chemistry and everybody being good in their roles, I think we were the best in the country at that.
So when the comparison comes of the previous time of playing against, Marvin Webster when it was two divisions, I come right to that North Park game where
Right.
4 of their 5 starters, and I know them right now, Michael Harper, Moselle Greer. Michael Harper had a time in the NBA with the Portland Trailblazers, the 6'10" guy.
Right.
Moselle 6'7", went to Cleveland. Michael Thomas, 6th round he's a point guard, went to Philadelphia 76ers. And Keith French, there's a guy named Keith French. He got drafted by Phoenix, I think, in the 10th round.
Right.
So as sophomores, right? So that argument about playing against Marvin Webster and when it was only just 2 divisions to what we did as sophomores, almost, seconds away from winning it as sophomores.
Right.
You can't compare that.
No,
You can't compare that. You got any comments about that?
Well, I'm just, taking it all in. I'm a firm believer that, all those situations are different. As you progress, the leagues change, the conference change, the talent changes, and you guys, when I saw you play, you guys were, you're excellent. I watched a few of your games and stuff. I come up there a few times and watched you guys play. It was great games and stuff. I'm not a firm believer in, comparing, 4 years before me to, years after me. Different
Right.
players, different talent, different times. Everybody did their thing. And, what
Right.
we did at the time when I was playing, that was, good 4 years. And whatever happened before that and after that, that's still part of history.
Right.
Right, but addressing the argument of that playing just two divisions, I just think that refutes
Well, you
it.
go back to when you got to go back to when the Celtics were in all their games. They have 6 teams in the NBA, 9 teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
they're playing every team 15 times,
Right.
so they're winning all their championships. So, stuff like that's really irrelevant
Right.
to where you're at right now, and to what was going on when you played and the games before you.
Well, because I could, when I first got there, I guess the barometer was Ted Benz, and Ted Benz and I are 2 totally different players.
Right.
Ted had his way to be successful, and I had my way to be successful. And not to take nothing from him, but I mean, we're just 2 totally different players.
So D, let me ask you this though. I saw footage of the time Ted Benz played. What if you and I were in that era on that team? How do you think you'd do? I'll just come right out and say my numbers, because I'd be asked to score more. One of the things that I'm proud of is if you look at I was shocked that I led the team in scoring as a freshman, but my sophomore, junior, senior, my numbers were consistent. If not, 13 points, 7, 8 assists, and as we brought Moan, as we brought Spoon, and as Scott Franco developed. I mean, it was about winning. It wasn't about numbers. But there is no doubt in my mind, if I played with Charlie Ferguson, who was Mike Dean's teammate, I'd be asked to score more,
Right.
So
but that's not your chemistry. You weren't, other than when you were in grammar school, you had to score a lot then. But after that, going through high school and what you experienced after that, that wasn't your mentality as far as going out
no,
and score a lot of points.
it wasn't.
You were gonna go out and be that playmaker,
Right.
And you're gonna go out and take the opportunities that was given to you, and you created for other people, and you took what was available to you. You're not the type of person that's gonna go out there and want to score a lot of points. So,
Having said that,
I don't think in that era you would have known what you know then. You would have changed the way you played.
No, because
You might have had more opportunities to score then. but I don't
Hey,
think that you would have been.
I think, you know, and
as selfish.
my best year, I think, was a 17-point average or something like that. You know, but you know, as I said earlier, I mean, you were the quarterback. I mean, you made it go. You know what I mean? You did everything you had to do to make us who we were. So being the quarterback, there's a lot of different roles. I mean, I didn't have to distribute the ball. I didn't have to handle the ball. I had to rebound and play defense, and I dunked. You know what I mean? And you know, I brought that part to the game. But we all had different roles, and you were you were great at what you did, you know, and you knew who you were, and that's why we had so much success. You know, we never got caught up in scoring because
That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah.
we never did, ever. We never talked about points because I could have scored more points if I had been more of a selfish thinking player, you know, because the motion offense was geared to get the ball inside, you know, a lot of the times, you know. So it wasn't about that. We had a balance that was perfect in our division.
But the other point I made though is as Mo came and Spoon developed, like you recognize that, and if they weren't there, right? And just like superimpose yourself back when Ted Benz played. You know, come on, man. You know your numbers would be through the roof, and that's just a fact. I mean, you know, you talk about opinions and facts.
Did you ever get hurt in college where you couldn't play?
I got hurt in the matter of fact. I was hurt in the national championship game. I didn't think I was going to be able to play. I took a knee in the semifinals, and but I don't think I missed any games during the regular season that I remember.
So what I'm getting at, if you and Jake were there during the years of Ted Benz and Mike Dean, you both might have been injured and not been able to produce any stats. So, you know, my point is that, you know, where you were at and where Ed was at, you guys did a great job and you did what you had to do. You can't worry about another era, or you can't really compare
you know,
yourself.
and look at it, you know, Ed, you can look at it like this. If you played, you know, I mean, the way we used to throw the alley-oop, I mean, the dynamic duo, Batman and Robin, they had all these names for us. And the way, I mean, all I had to do was get to the rim and you put it in a perfect place every time. If you played with Ted Benz, that would have been different. You wouldn't, we wouldn't have, we played together, and because the way you played and the way I played was a perfect complement. So I can't compare myself to Ted Benz. You know, I can't, and I won't. You know.
Well, you're a coach. Our coaches are political now, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you should be a
guess,
politician.
you know,
Having said that, wait.
I mean, it's the truth. You know, like I mean, you know, the way you ran the show, man, very few have done it with me on the court. I played with a lot of guys, but the way you ran the show was the way the show was supposed to be ran. So, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I know you were great at what you did, and that's all I know.
And I do want to let you know, I led my senior year in high school. I led the CLO in scoring, so I could score when I wanted to.
Oh, so I'm saying you had to score then. That was
That-
something that you had to
That's the
do.
point I'm trying to
And
make.
that's what we're saying, that if you had to do those.
And the motion
you would do
offense
those
wasn't set up for any one person. It was
Right.
set up for all five of us. You know, now as a pro coach, it ain't everybody don't shoot. Shooting ain't an equal opportunity thing. You know, I mean, players get shots, but the guys you want to have the ball are going to have the ball.
So that sophomore year, we end up losing to North Park.
Right.
Seconds, you know, as sophomores for the national championship.
Right.
And at the end of the year, you know, and what I remember is any you know, out of conference tournament we played, holiday tournament, whatever, you were either getting the MVP or I was getting the MVP. That's what I remember for 3 years.
Right.
And we were both first team SUNYACs that year. I was lucky enough to get SUNYAC Player of the Year my sophomore and junior year, and you got it your senior year.
Right.
And so it was one or the other as we went through, you know, our careers. So we come back our junior year, and that was the first year Mo came, right?
Right.
And expectations are pretty crazy, right? We actually had, I'm just looking here. We actually finished the year 25-4. And we started out winning, I think, our first 16 or 17 games. Our first loss was against St. Lawrence by a couple points. But at that point in time, we lost Fran, but we had Terry Hunter and Scott Franco filled the other
Right.
two slots, and then Mo, of course.
Right.
You had 17-point average. Mo was just under 14. I was at 13. Terry at 9. I mean, we were so balanced. I'm
Right.
looking at. I mean, as a team, we had over 550 assists
Right.
over the course of the time.
Right.
That was the first year. Mike Dean was a JUCO coach,
Right.
and he had a great player, Dana Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Dana?
Of course. I just talked to Dana last week.
So I'll go on record to say my 4 years there, he might have been the most athletic and maybe talented player I saw come through there.
Right.
But he just couldn't fit in with us.
Right.
What do you remember about that year, junior year? Now we're coming back off of a second place finish in the nationals.
Oh, I remember. It was a lot of expectations. You know, we still had a great team. And I remember getting beat by Longwood in that year. Longwood was a great team. I remember they were physical. They had hard hands. These boys was countrified, man. They was eating some of that cornbread and them collard greens, man, because they were physical and big. They ended up going to Division I, I think, the year after that or shortly after that.
And that was the first year that Suniacs had a conference tournament.
That was the very first year.
They had then Buffalo, University of Buffalo hosted with Rosie's cousin. Nate Bowie played there, Rosie's cousin, and we played Buff State the first game. It was a good game. We won by 8, and a low scoring game against the University of Buffalo. We won by 5. So that was the first. So we won our division, which qualified us for the conference tournament, and that was the first year of the tournament that we won. And then, to your point, we went to Farmville, Virginia. That's what you're talking about,
right?
And
the number one song on the charts was "And the Beat Goes On."
Yeah.
I remember that after the game. I was thankful for that song because we had to keep moving. But that was the number one song when we lost that game.
I remember it was so cold in Potsdam, but when we got there, I just remember how warm it was. It was a March day in Virginia, and the temperature just kind of threw me, like, even today, like when there's a big change in temperature, you get a little logy or whatever. But do you remember who was on that team, that Longwood team? Jerome Kersey.
Jamar Kurtz. Yeah, he played with Portland. Yep, he was there.
He was a freshman, I think, at the time, and they all had, like, I just remember they had like 3 6'6" players that were strong and athletic
and big.
Yeah. But Jerome Kersey was a great NBA player.
Yeah, he was.
Again, getting back to that comparison about, well, we played against Marvin Webster. There's another NBA player we played against.
Right.
And it was disappointing, right? It was our second Elite Eight. We all expected that we're going to go back, try to get that North Park deal again. But some of the players, and Scott Franco, Terry Hunter, what can you reminisce about? And Mo had a great year his first year there.
Well, I just know that Terry Hunter didn't speak to us after that loss until graduation. He took it hard. He'd see us on campus and wouldn't even speak to us because it was his senior year, and he felt like, he felt let down because we didn't get back to the national championship game. But I just remember, being young and naive to all the things that we were. We were successful. I mean, even to get that far was a hell of an accomplishment, especially after everybody knew who we were. Maybe the first year we caught teams off guard, but once they knew who we were, we still got the job done. So I just looked at it as being successful. I've never been one to, like I said, in Potsdam, I never really worried about my stats. I never did, because I know that, 15, 16 points a game was what the going rate for all of us. Nobody was we may have had big games, but on an average, we had so many good players that, no one had to do that much. And the system wasn't set up for that. So I just remember the unity and the chemistry that we had as a team.
Yeah, I think the pedigree of winning, Dale and I talk about that all the time, even in high school, even in going to playground, like, it was just winning. It wasn't, and that was that was unique because, as you know, there's a lot of, especially in today's game, right? There's a lot of stat crazy
Right.
coaching, and
Yeah.
uh, but it was a characteristic that I don't think comes around a
Well,
long
no,
time.
as a coach today and all the things I've done since Potsdam, winning has to be a part of your DNA. You know what I mean? It's like right now, it's just part of my DNA. After my experience at Potsdam and further, I went on to play for Phil Jackson and George Carl and Bill Musselman, and I've always won, and it was just became who I am. And we knew how to win, because it ain't the X's and O's, it's the Jimmy and the Joes. So. I truly believe that, like with my players now, you have to know how to win, and winning has to be a part of your DNA to be consistent as a winner.
So that year, you finished over 17 points. You had 220 rebounds. I had over 200. Actually, I think my biggest assist year, 211 assists. Still at that 13 point, average. But you just go down the list here. Scott Franco, 6 points. Pat Melbourne, Dana averaged 6.5. He only played 15 games that year.
Right.
But I if he could, there's somebody. We're talking about pedigree and winning. There was somebody that just wasn't a fit. I don't know if you want to elaborate on it. You just saw him, but his body, everything was amazing.
Right.
Like I said, I think he might have been the best basketball player I saw come through there while I was there.
Right.
Like Dana Mitchell.
Right.
So then the following year, that summer, and I don't know if you know this, Coach talks about it too, but after his freshman year, Scott Franco wanted to transfer to Albany. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, I heard rumors about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Coach told a lie that said Sauer said he couldn't play there, so he ended up staying.
Yeah.
That's good coaching.
Yeah, it is. But that was the summer that so the summer leading into our senior year, it's our last shot. I know I was just focused on winning a national championship, not to look ahead, but I did look ahead. That was driving me. That was the summer Scott Franco. Do you remember that I guess he sliced off the tip of his finger on his shooting hand? Do you remember that? And he came back?
Vaguely, not really.
So that summer he was doing something working, and he actually his fingertip he cut off. He always used to wear a Band-Aid on, if you don't remember. And I know Welsh called me up all nervous and everything, and so that's how that summer was starting off. But we jumped out we jumped out crazy, like winning the first 14 or 15 games. And the mindset, this is when Leroy was a freshman. So we got our starting five was Mo, Scott, Leroy, you and I. And well, Leroy didn't start right away. I think it was Wayne and Pat Melbourne and some other folks. But I remember Dana Mitchell only played 7 games.
Right.
And I just remember Scott Franco and I just walking into Welsh's office. I talked to Scott about this too, and just say, this ain't going to work with Dana unless you get him to do something. And then soon thereafter, he just left the team.
Right.
You remember that?
I remember him leaving the team. It was just because Dana was a player, but I guess he didn't fit into what coach was trying to do. That motion offense was just, what it was. It was just movement, ball, and Dana didn't fit in. So to play. So
I'm trying to get.
That's all I remember about that.
I'm trying to get your boy Spoon on the line, but as he was his freshman year, he needs
right.
you guys to hold his hand and get him through things. So, I don't know if he knows how to use the link, or he's not answering his phone. So I don't know what he's doing.
So the first game, well, that was the year. So we started off, I think, 15 or 16 straight wins. Like when I look back, of course, championship games and a game that sticks out in my mind was my junior year, the Hamilton College tournament, where they had the 50-something game home game winning streak,
right?
And we just rocked them. We had them up by 30 at one point. That game resonates with me. Another game is at Hartwood when they were ranked top 10 D2. Nick Lambrose, he's down here, and we kid around with each other. But I don't know if you remember that game. They had a squad, and it was in January. It was one of our first games back from break. It was the first game back. We won 51-50 at Hartford, beating a D2 team on their own court that was ranked, highly ranked in their division. You remember that game?
Yes. Yep.
Low scoring. I remember their guard Carpenter, and they had some other really, really good
Yeah,
players.
they were good. They were good that year.
So it wasn't until the end of January that we got our first loss, which was at St. Lawrence, 51-50. I remember that game. They had the one-sided, a lot of bleachers just on one side. Then they had the wall. But that week, I ripped my hamstring really bad. I didn't practice all week. It was heavily taped. I ended up playing. I probably shouldn't have, but we lost. I didn't have one of my better games, but we lost. We lost our first game there by 1 point, and then we ran off another 10 or so, and then here we are back hosting the regional NCAA regional, playing Albany on home. And our senior year, we lost in overtime, and I was devastated.
Right.
And what was going through your mind at that time? Any thoughts about where we were at that time? Or?
Yeah, I remember the game. I remember the game. I don't remember what I was thinking though.
Dude, I thought I was having a little dementia here. You guys, man,
I got a lot.
Remember
hey man, I done played a few more basketball games since then, man. Hey.
It's like this. I don't reminisce about the past. It's already been there and gone. And
yeah,
well, it's because you can't remember, man.
I'm a firm believer. If you're good at what you do, everybody else will talk about it. You have to talk about it yourself.
You were talking about it.
Talking about what?
Louisville and New Mexico. And
well, that's because Boeheim brought it up. When I congratulated him on his retirement, he brought that up.
Okay, so because we only had lost 2 games that year, we ended up hosting the regionals, and Staten Island, Albany, and Clark were there. Remember Clark University?
Yes.
We ended up playing them in the Elite Eight our sophomore year and beating them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had beaten Staten Island, and we got a revenge against Albany in the. We lost to Albany in the conference finals. Then we beat them in the regional finals.
In the regionals,
that's right. And actually Spoon hit. I remember like a corner 10-foot jumper. That was a really, really close game in the regionals. And he hit it. We owned 68, 63, but I remember him hitting like a little side jumper.
Hey, that was the great Coach K-back pep talk. I got hurt in that game with about 4 minutes to go. That's when I got my deep thigh bruise, and I'm out in the hallway in Maxey Hall with Pete Farrell. Coach K-Max come running out in the hall. You got to get back in. You got to get back in. Your life depends on it, And we talk about that to this day. I came back in. I think I had another key basket down the stretch. But I remember that vaguely because they had us on the ropes in that game,
Yeah, they did. They
had us on the ropes. And I remember Spoon hit a big shot. I remember that. And we came back and we beat him. Yep.
And then we hosted Clark again for the second time in 3 years at the Elite Eight. High scoring game. I can't remember the guy's name.
His name was Kevin Clark.
Yeah, Kevin Clark. Blonde-headed kid, right?
Yeah, I remember. No.
Kevin
Clark was a black guy.
Yeah, that's right. Kevin Clark, that's right. High scoring, right? He was like a big time player for them.
Right.
I can't remember his name. And he did play, but he was the majority owner of the Milwaukee Bucks today.
I know you told me his name, but
and he just sold his stake. I just read something about 4 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But God, his name doesn't come to mind. But again, Maxey was rocking, full house craziness. That was the game to get us, back to the Final Four. And we won that game 87-81. And luck would behold, we're playing back at Augustana, but Augustana, the home team, ends up being in the Final Four.
Right.
And our draw was Ursinus, which is out of just a suburb of Philadelphia, and they had an All-American named Mobley.
Right.
We won that game by 2 points. And you mentioned something to me, D. You said you wish there was a video of that game, so people could have saw that game prior.
Yeah, that was a great. Yeah, I remember that game. That was a 2-point win. That was a classic.
Now, I think you didn't miss a shot field goal that game, right?
I think I know I had a good game. You know.
Yeah, I think I heard Walsh say that you didn't miss a field goal. I had a bad ankle from the previous weekend or 2 weeks
Hmm.
before, but you had 20, I had 22, and that got us into the finals against Augustana.
Right.
And it was mentioned in the documentary that you were getting worked on all night.
Right.
I don't know. I just had the feeling that good things were going to happen. I was calm. I going through it. What was going through your mind that day or night?
Just getting healthy. I had a football pad on my thigh. Wrapped with the tape. Pete Farrell had me wrapped up pretty good. It was the biggest game of my life. It was the biggest sports moment of my life. So I can't even tell you what I was thinking. I was just trying to be ready to play in that game. And I know it was televised, so I knew my family was watching. My friends were watching back in Long Island. And, so I was just doing what I do. You know what I mean? Just playing to win the game,
We've all watched that game multiple times, and I guess what I would have liked to seen is in the documentary, and maybe they were asked or whatever, but I thought Bill Prokowski played the best game I've ever seen him play while I was there, and Scott Franco was huge
Yeah.
in the first half. Those two guys need to, without them we don't win.
No, I think Scotty played his role to perfection, and I just thought he should have been mentioned more throughout the whole process. But I guess it is what it is. It was a lot talked about in the documentary. It was good to give everybody a little recognition. I mean, everybody. I mean, from Neil Johnson on through the whole. He was the meanest guy in college when I was there. He was a wrestling coach, and he was just a mean guy. I took him one of his classes. We came to be friends later on, but it was just the whole scenario in Potsdam.
We didn't try to get you to wrestle.
No, he knew better than that. But we just had a whole host of good people, and everybody played their role, and there was no individualism, no one that was selfish on any of our teams. And no, I don't even know what I scored. I couldn't tell you one of my scoring games, except for the last one. I know I had a good scoring game in the national championship game, but that was it. Any other game, I can't tell you what I did. I just know we won, and that was it.
So you had mentioned there were a couple tournaments that Bayheimer's reporters or somebody was pissed because was it you or Marty Burns? She got MVP, and they gave it the Carrier Classic, and then
That was Marty Burns.
In this case, they none of us, we both made all tournaments, but Maxwell Artis got the MVP of the championship game for the losing team. And I think it was because they had thought they had won the game before Leroy made the shot.
I think the vote was in before the game was over, and he was at his home court. So I mean, hey, listen, I don't even remember what happened. I just know who walked out there with the trophy, or the watches, I should say. I think we got watches for winning that, didn't we? Yeah. Something like that.
So of course, we're trying to get Leroy on, but I don't know if he can hit the link, right?
He didn't hit the link, and he's not answering his phone now either. So.
All right. Well,
we'll have to catch him another time.
Right, but everybody, that's when Leroy was born, so to speak, on a national level as well as back at Potsdam for his next 3 years. Everybody, remembers that shot. I didn't have a very good shooting game, especially in the second half. You were hurt. You played I've watched that game many times. Having said that, if you watch that game, early in this, I'd say, they made a run, right? So they were down 3 or 4 at half, and then they made a run, a big time run in the second half. At about the 14-minute mark, they got up to eight points. They were up at 8 points. And even though I had a bad shooting game and you were hurt, if you watch that game, we went back to you made that basket, I made a basket to cut that lead, to stop that run.
Right.
That was a huge. If you look at that you can make a
course.
statement that was a huge part of the game. So when
Right.
people talk about, the ill-advised shot I took, which it was at the end, and which Mo fouled, you go to that 14-minute mark, around that 14-minute mark. Um, that game could have gotten away from us, and the two
Oh
seniors
yeah,
came through, and
easily.
that needs to go in the vault for people to pay attention to that.
Right. Well, and basketball is a game of runs. You know what I mean? It's just like up and down. Everybody goes on their run. So whatever happens throughout the course of the game, long as we came out of there with the W, they couldn't figure out our four corner offense. And then they made some adjustments at halftime, and they came out, and then they started to lag off us a little bit and come out and zone a little bit. So they changed it up. So it was a game of runs. I think it was a masterful coaching job by Potsdam coaches, and we did our thing. We did our thing, and that's a game that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I show my kids, I resort back to it. And it was just a great time in my life. So, I look back on Potsdam, man, and look at all the good memories and the good people, man. So I have nothing but positive stuff, and I don't even remember even the '86 team, there's a conversation of who would beat who. I don't really care who would beat who. I feel like we had the best team of all time. That's what I feel like. But whether it's true or not, it's an opinion. I'm sure they feel like they went 32-0 or something like that. But what we did was very, very, very special. I don't care who you compare it to. What we did was a once in a lifetime thing. So.
We started the show, and I asked you if you knew of Potsdam or if you knew of Mike Dean and Ted Benz and those guys. You said no, as I did. So now we have this national championship. We leave, right? You embark on a career, a lot of it with the Albany Patroons. Um, you had mentioned, the change, the winds of change, to the next level came when you brought Mo there. We got Spoon there, right? But then as Spoon went on, and we left, I don't know if you want to call it a legacy or the presence. I'll say this. Jerry recruited players prior to us from Albany and Syracuse and even Utica, okay? But what we did, and then my relationship during high school and college and even after with Dale, going to Griffiths Air Force Base, going to Thornton Park in Syracuse, this Potsdam Syracuse connection, Dale visiting, there was a whole visibility, aura around, Potsdam was a name. You had obviously Syracuse in the Big East, but, people knew about Potsdam. Where I'm getting at is you go to Albany based on your Potsdam career and you do your thing with the Patroons, Mr. Patroon. I mean, that puts Potsdam on a bigger map for better talent. Does that make sense?
100%. Because once throughout the years, the Potsdam started getting the great teams after we started winning because now we're more visible. Players want to come. It's just how it goes. The rich get richer as far as talent goes. So I truly believe. I give everybody credit, but I truly believe that we changed the fate in Potsdam's history.
Was Jerry still coaching for the second national championship?
Yeah, he was
there. And again, once he retired and the next guy came in, it's tough for you to carry on that legacy.
Right. Nobody ever will.
The next guy in that doesn't have that type of charisma that Coach Welsh had and can't relate to players as he did. I worked the camp for him. I came up to games and stuff, and he just had a way about his players and how he ran things.
He's one of the best to ever do it,
Yeah.
And no doubt, and it wasn't a secret. I mentioned it. He just outworked everyone.
Yeah, he outworked
or whatever.
And he had talent. He knew how to get guys and put them together because Doc Sowers had every opportunity to do what he did as far as Albany was even in a better location, more centralized in a city.
Right.
And those were some great rivalries and some great games and I just look back on them and I just remember I felt like no one could beat us, and in most cases, I was right.
Here's my question though. I hear what you're saying about it's hard to follow Jerry Welsh, but how does Oswego isn't Oswego's got the same weather as Potsdam, maybe more harsh on a lake, and they're winning finals and regionals, and they're actually the Potsdam State of today, I believe. This guy named Jason Leone, who actually Tobin Anderson, who took FDU, we're engaged with him on the show. He coached Clarkson, went to Hamilton, but he was his assistant there. But I look at the Division III brackets every year. North Park's there, Augustana is there. So when I don't know for me, it's just knowing how hard Jerry worked and what he did. Yeah, it's hard following a legacy, but I would rather take over a program that's nationally known if I'm a coach, and than one that's not. That makes sense.
Well, you gotta go in and build it. Just because it's a nationally known program doesn't mean that the next guy in is going to carry on that tradition.
Right.
He's got to be able to go out and recruit players. He's got to be able to go out and convince players that this is the place to be. He's got to convince players that, okay, you might have been a superstar in high school, but I need you to tone it down a little bit and be part of a team to where, we're going to be, 15 guys, but one unit. And, sometimes, some coaches can't do that, and some players don't let coaches do that.
Well, most coaches can't. Like, nobody's ever replaced Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, all the great NBA coaches. And I mean, Duke is having success right now, but he's not going to be a Mike Krzyzewski. I don't see it happening.
No.
I mean, he's good now because Mike Krzyzewski's presence is still there. But to keep that legacy up, it's almost impossible.
Well, right now it's tough for a lot of these guys because with the one and done now and the transfer portal and everything else, these kids are unhappy. They're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
Kids only going to be there 1 year, and somebody gets in their ear and say, you can go to the NBA. These kids are going.
Well, I think
that's going to hurt a lot of programs.
But I think that is good because now you see parity in college. But look at all the upsets that are going on.
We were just talking about that yesterday. Yeah.
Back in the day, they never, whoever's supposed to wins the game. Now, I mean, a 16 can be the 1 seed, as we saw yesterday.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't happen that much, but it's been a lot of upsets so far in the tournament because of the transfer portal and the kids having more of a chance to go other places.
If you had the NIL back then when you played at Potsdam, who do you think you'd have contracts with? Sergi's?
The Rusty Nail.
Yeah, the Rusty.
I probably would have had to deal with Mort Backus brothers. The car dealership. Those are my people. But
there you go.
Morgan's? Wasn't that?
Yeah, Morgan's.
Yeah, Morgan's. Yeah.
Didi passed away. You know that, right?
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, he passed away.
Was he still involved in restaurants and stuff like that?
No, I don't think so. He had gotten older and stuff and gotten sick. I know Coach K-Mac went to the funeral, but yeah, Didi passed away, yeah.
So, Steve, the original Coach K, was going to try to be on. He got his days messed up. I guess he had his colonoscopy today.
He had a procedure today.
But, I told him this week because we had a long conversation. And, and I talked to Johnny K-Mac a while too. Like people forget what we accomplished, right? And what we built there. And
you think they? I don't. I don't think people forgot. Anybody that was there knows.
Well, as far as what we achieved, like he forgot. Two SUNYAC Player of the Years for me, one for you. He didn't know what we did as a freshman. Like he forgot about beating Stony Brook, and maybe that's just age or whatever setting in.
Right.
But the accomplishments when in a build out mode. Where I'm going at with Coach K is I don't know. I don't know anything about the situation at the time or whatever. But I would have hoped to think that they would have at least given him a shot at Potsdam because he knew. I just think he would have been one of them to carry on. Maybe not to the level Jerry did, but he knew what it took.
Right. And Coach, Coach K-Mac should definitely at least be in the Potsdam Hall of Fame. because he was there all of my years. He had a big influence on me and many of the other players that were responsible for winning having the success that we did. So, yeah, that's one thing that I hope we can correct while we have a chance to, is to get him that, because he certainly is deserving of it. You know, as a coach, he had Potsdam High School ranked #1 in their class in New York State. They were #1 in the state. And that's a hell of an accomplishment, to take Potsdam High School and make it #1 in the state. I think it was in Class C. And you know, he's just been one of those guys. He knows how to win. You know, we talked about knowing how to win, and he was another one that knew that.
And that would have been nothing better for me to see him take over for Jerry, because I do believe Potsdam State basketball wouldn't be, you know, in the situation it's been in.
No, and I agree with that, because he and Jerry were like, they were, you know, he knew exactly what Jerry was doing, and he was a part of it. And I thought he could have took on the legacy as close to Jerry as anyone else could have done. So.
All right, man. Well, we kept you an hour. I know you got to get on the road tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
But,
well, we got a game tonight. We got Atlantic City coming in. So, yeah, I got to get back over to the arena. Hey, man.
Are you going to see Mo tonight?
Yeah. I just left Mo. You know, me and Mo still. Mo, Waverly. I just saw those guys today. They were at we had a practice this morning.
Well, give those guys my best. I haven't seen those guys.
Yeah, I know. You know, they're doing well. You know, they're doing well.
Put another bug in your ear. Your teammate Spoon is getting inducted into the Upstate New York Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to be there.
23rd.
I'm going to be there. I think I'm going to be there. I got to make sure my schedule will let me, but I wouldn't miss that one for nothing as long as I'm here.
Yeah, make sure you tell Waverly, to take all those bottles and cans back to the store and save up this $150.
Hey, Shaq, Waverly's a new man. He's buying houses and real estate. Waverly's doing his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I you know, like I said, after watching that documentary, man, I think he should have taken that scholarship at Rutgers.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where that one came from. I that was the first time I ever heard of that. You know.
I mean, I could pull up his. That'd be worth doing, man. His career at Potsdam, he played in like 23 games.
No, don't do that. We don't need to do that. He had his influence was in another way. You know what I mean? He was a part of it, but you know, he didn't really get a lot of minutes because
he came to Utica with Spoon and basically never left.
Yeah, yeah, he did.
He fell in love and stayed there.
Yeah, but he's doing all right. Mo is still Mo doing his thing. So, hey man, so I'm gonna try to get down there to see you guys, man. As soon as my schedule allows me, man, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna come and hang out a little bit. So,
do you have a pick for the NCAAs or not really?
Not really. It's just tough, man. You know, in the tournament is who's playing well on that day. You know what I mean? I like to see an underdog. It's like it's probably, I think the #1 seed is 8 straight or 7 straight or something like that. I like to see an underdog. I believe in the underdogs. You know, I've always been an underdog in most cases. So I like to see an underdog do it. But you know, Alabama's tough. You know,
that's who I got. I'm not. I mentioned this last week. I just don't like how the school handled the recent shooting situation and all that.
Right.
Having said that, if you're looking at strictly basketball, you told me the guy got hurt, right?
Yeah, he pulled a groin.
Yeah, I mean that Brandon Miller's a real deal.
Yeah.
But he said he's definitely playing today.
Yeah, he said he's going to play, but a groin injury is not anything fun to play with. Exactly. You know, but you know, anybody can get hot, man. And the way these games are going, everybody's afraid of everybody now. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Furman had their run. They're getting blown out by 23 right now against San Diego State. And so they had their little run.
Oh, they are. Okay, yeah.
In our backyard right here, 5 minutes from us, Florida Atlantic. They just beat Memphis.
Yeah, that was a. I watched that. I watched most of the second half of that.
Dale's seen them play in person, and FDU is playing them, and unfortunately for FDU, I mean they play fast, but I think they just got better skill players. So I don't think it's a good matchup for FDU, but keep your eye out for FAU. I
just think that, you know, and even down the stretch, you see a couple questionable calls. You know what I mean? I think that was a foul. I think the Memphis player got fouled before he lost the ball.
Do you really
Before
think that officiating has something to do with the wins and losses?
Do I? Hey, of course it does. And I don't say it's
As much as we
intentional.
played, right? As much as we played, of course they do.
Of course they do, man. But I don't think that a lot of times it's intentional because there's so many cameras and so many people watching. It's hard to But I think down the stretch, a call could change the whole outcome of the.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Well, get
Okay.
to work. Do what you got to do. Appreciate you taking this Saturday with us.
Yep, good luck in the game tonight.
Yep. And stay safe driving. You still got snow on the ground?
All right, man. I appreciate. Oh yeah, we got a little something. It's nice out now, but it's melting. So it's that East Coast toughness. That East Coast, man. You just got to go hard, man. Whatever.
So we're still on the East Coast, but it's 85 degrees.
I know.
We're on the East Coast.
Hey, I'm trying to get there, man. So hopefully I'll see you guys soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
See you guys. Yeah.
All right, man. You know what?
That was good reminiscing.
You know what? I just loved you. As we end this show, man, I just want to get Let's Go on here. And hey, we got to get Dusty May, the coach of FAU, on. He used to be the manager. I didn't know this for Indiana University, like the manager.
The team manager.
Yeah, the team manager. And
well, I'll tell you what, a lot of guys have been managers of teams and end up going and coaching on different levels, and end up being good coaches.
That is, I'm not sure if he played at all, but yeah, he's right in our backyard. He'd be great when this is over. Get Tobin on. Yeah, we got some pretty cool things planned in the future. So hopefully people can share today. It's not on Instagram Live because we can't get a remote feed through there, and this podcast, not many podcast platforms tie into Instagram Live. You got to just shoot it from your phone or iPad. But having said that, man, I appreciate Derrick. I appreciate you being patient here, and we'll do it next week.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing golf on Monday.
That's right. That's right.
Another one of our high school friends coming in town with a buddy of his and Kevin Ryan, and we're gonna come out here to the Delray Beach Golf Course and play 18 holes on Monday. So I got to get my swing oil on, a couple cigars.
All right, man. All right. We'll see you later.
All right.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Pepper out.